I don't care if he's pooped his pants.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brand John never wants to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
You know what, John? Normally we start off in a certain way. This morning I'm going to break the format. This is Break the Format Wednesday. How's that?
All right, I love it.
I heard a song last night when I was out cruising around, just nothing to do, just driving down the highway, doing about 90 miles an hour, just, meshing right in with the traffic down in downtown St. Louis, firing off my 9, leaving some 9 shells on Broadway, stuff like that. I heard a new song on Z1077, and
no way! Oh my goodness! Now, is it from either a barbershop quartet or is it that kind of Dua Lipa style singers that you occasionally employ?
I think it's like a Dua Lipa. You ready for it?
Ooh, I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
Every street and house is glowing, bright colors screaming, flashing, showing. I don't need another ad to tell me who to pick when I hit the booth. Free promises on paper just distract me. Plastic faces fade and they don't last. See, listen up, we don't need those signs so bright. Just remember when you vote what's right. Your signs suck. They clutter up the night. No more cardboard in my sight. Your signs suck. They're tearing at my view. Let me breathe and think it through.
Is that a good song or what? Yard signs
It's
suck.
fantastic, Brad. I love it. Now, that's already been opposed. There's already a hit piece out by the yard sign industry of America about that show.
Really?
Yeah, but you're able to withstand it, Brad.
I'm telling you what, I'm like Trump. With just the more stuff you throw at me, the more stuff I just go like, yeah, I'm like the Incredible Hulk. Yeah, you want to lawsuit me? I'll show you.
Boy, we know about that. Now, Brad, first of all, I think you should cease and desist with those comments, if you know what I mean. Secondly, I would say, Brad, the one thing that you do better than anything else is you show Missouri truth. If you did anything better than that, you could buy a billboard on 170.
We've created a mini controversy with this billboard thing, haven't we? And you put the screenshot of our show yesterday. We had 2 segments, but only one of them actually ended up because my computer screwed up and I had to leave early. So we only did 2 segments, but only one's up. But you put that as the key shot,
the thumbnail,
as the thumbnail on our video, and you circled, which I didn't even notice. If you know what we're talking about, there's a billboard on 170 between Page and Rock Road, and it's a billboard for Crystal Quade. Okay, first off, I shouldn't say it's for Crystal, it's for Crystal, right? Because
Crystal Quade.
Crystal, Crystal Quade, because the Y is missing, right? Isn't that what it is? What?
Yeah, no, the T is missing. There's no T.
All right, Crystal Quade. And the thing's sort of a crazy billboard anyway, because it's sort of goofy, and it has this, my agenda is you, or something like that. And
her agenda is you.
Yeah, her agenda is you, and it's got this goofy old-timey finger pointing down. It's like, okay, what the hell is this? So I took a picture of it. I pass it from time to time and sent it to John, and John noticed that they had Crystal's name spelled wrong, which is, once again, you would think that if you're spending money for a billboard that you would have at least a couple people proof it, go like,
Brad, I didn't ask you this, but is it a digital billboard or is it a print billboard?
No, it's a print billboard. It's a
okay, so think of the number of people that had to look at the creative, the number of people that had to actually put this billboard up, and not a single one thought, you know what? Doesn't this chick have a T in her name?
Well, the way it works with that industry, somebody created it, on their desktop, using whatever, Photoshop or I don't know, whatever, whatever, all sorts
Canva,
of Canva or something like that. Then they gave it to the billboard company, and then the billboard company looked at it and it's a Drury DDI billboard. And normally, I know the DDI people, great group of people. They passed it along to the printer because those are essentially vinyl wraps that they put up there now. They don't paint the billboards anymore. They're literally a big vinyl wrap that they print off, and then they have little eyelets in it. I don't know if you know this or not. They have little eyelets in it on the edges, and the guys climb up in the board, and you use ratchet straps, literally ratchet straps with hooks on them, to affix the billboard to the actual sign up there. So there's 3 people it went through, someone who did the creative on it, and I would imagine that whoever did the creative probably is not the same person that initiated it. So in other words, someone's called a creative person, say, hey, can you put together a billboard for me? And the creative person says, fine. Then they send it back to the person that called them, and for their proof, they go, okay, looks good. Then they send it on to the DDI. Then they send it on to the printer, and then it goes up on the billboard. And then I drove by it, I don't know how many times, and took a picture of it. I go, John, this is a weird-looking billboard. And then John looks at it and goes, her name's wrong, which is so weird. And we figured this out on the air yesterday. It's done by some PAC. Is that a PAC for or against her? We never really came out with the. Did you ever do any more research on that?
Yeah, so the best I can find, Brad, what's unique is that this group, Show Missouri Truth, is listed on Act Blue. And folks who are political will recognize the name Act Blue, because it's kind of a clearinghouse for progressive interests to organize their fundraising, I guess coordinate their fundraising, for lack of a better term. So the PAC is listed as one of the, it might not be accurate to say an Act Blue endorsed group, but certainly it's listed among progressive groups that progressive donors should consider contributing to. And then when you go to the Show Missouri Truth website, there's very little information there, but it talks about the fact that politics has become so polarized. And among the issues that it lists are both social justice issues and then also critical race theory. And my theory here, Brad, is that this group is actually very pro, 1619 Project, whatever. And they probably highlight critical race theory for the sake that if people are Googling it, they want to capture those people and redirect them to what they would consider accurate information. But the point is, Brad, I believe this is a pro-Crystal Quade hack, but I'm not certain.
Well,
what I do know is it's based in Kirkwood. So if we want to distract them, we should probably talk about how Webster Groves is much better than Kirkwood.
Or we could tell them that the house that they live in now that they paid $1.2 million originally was sold for $3,000 back in 1946. And
it sure was. And then we'll tell them, actually, they really love it when you say, you call yourself from Kirkwood, but I think you're a little bit more Meacham Park. They love that, Brad.
That's an inside reference that not too many people would pick up on. Okay, so we've determined that's not a hit billboard. That's a pro billboard, essentially.
I believe it is. Yeah, and I think as we hear from more people, I think we'll probably get a little bit more information about that.
And you know what Whoopi said about that, right?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't care if he's pooped his pants.
That's what Whoopi said. Okay. Did you hear that?
Oh, Brad, enough about your adult diapers. When we talk about people needing to run somewhere real quick, that leads nicely into story number 3.
Oh, but you know what? I forgot to get the lead in. Come on, you got to give me the lead. John Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T.
I know, I'm just teeing you up.
John Combest is the guy who every single day puts together this list. He puts it out on his website, johncombest.com. We start off with this guy by the name of...
I'm Casey Kasem.
And he starts off with...
In third place...
It's a business decision, Brad. Just a business decision. That's what companies say when they lay people off. It's what Governor Mike Parson said yesterday about the decision to emancipate state workers from St. Louis City into beautiful God's country, into Chesterfield in St. Louis County. The governor said it's just a business decision. The governor says it has nothing to do with crime, Brad. Let me just be blunt, Brad. What do you think about this?
I don't know. I mean,
because I hate to ask a leading question. Let me interrupt my own question here. I think the governor says that it's a business decision, which I think is also true. I think the governor can't pretend that this doesn't have anything to do with freeing Missouri state workers from having to drive into St. Louis and park their car and walk into the office and maybe even, God forbid, leave at lunch and risk life and limb to get something to eat and then come back and then have to walk to their car. And in the wintertime, it's going to be dark. And who wants to walk to their car in the dark in St. Louis City? So for the governor to say that this is just a business decision, I'm sure business and the economics of it play a role. But crime has to be a part of this,
Well,
Brad.
wasn't the story that this caught the city of St. Louis, the mayor and everything blindsided? They didn't know about this. Wasn't that what the story was? That they had?
Yeah, it is. And we tracked down the memo. And remember, Tashara Jones was auditioning for Dreamgirls when the notice was given to her. So that's why she missed it, I think.
Okay, don't you think, and I'm trying to be, a proactive kind of person, don't you think that the better situation would be that Mike Parson jumps on the phone and calls up Tashara and says, Tashara, look, we got a problem. We've got these people down at the Wainwright building, that historic building. Our people don't want to come to work anymore because they think it's unsafe in the city. Is there anything we could work on together? Could I maybe throw you some highway patrolmen, or maybe send in the National Guard, or maybe send in a bunch of college kids from Mizzou who are studying law enforcement or something like that, and sort of clean things up down there? And she says, well, everything's just fine. Then he said, well, you know what? We've got this nice office building we're looking at out in Chesterfield. And you know what? We just might move everybody out to Chesterfield. Why don't you think on it and call me back in a week? Don't you think that would have been like the proper way to do it, to make a phone call like that?
I do think so. And what is missing from this story is any indication from the governor that he did make that call. Maybe there's a chance that he reached out and the governor's people didn't, or I'm sorry, and the mayor's people didn't respond. I don't know. I do agree with you, Brad. And but there has been some, I guess we could call it lack of communication as it relates to some of the governor's selections for boards and commissions in the city too. I thought that the governor and the mayor had some sort of a cordial relationship years ago. I don't know if that's deteriorated, or if I don't know if that initial impression was wrong. But you're right, Brad. You would think that the governor and the mayor would at least have a phone call in terms of a heads up.
Well, the area is so bizarrely parochialized. Is that a word? That's probably not a word.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it is.
Okay, because of the fact that, remember, I know this from my old days, 50 years ago, police dispatching, that the Missouri State Highway Patrol does not go on the interstates in the city of St. Louis. If they're on patrol and they're driving east on 44, they turn around at Shrewsbury, or they turn around at the first exit there in what would that be, Southwest, or I don't know, Hampton. Anyway, the first exit,
Yeah.
And same thing on northbound 55. If they're going north on 55, they turn around at Germania. They get off at Germania and they go back south on 55 because they're not supposed to be in the city, and not because of the fact that they're not welcome. Well, they aren't welcome. And remember the big controversy when then Governor Greitens had this big press conference where he decided to bring in the highway patrol guys to do the traffic on the interstates to a free.
I do remember that. Yeah.
And remember, there was tremendous controversy about that. And Mayor, I don't know if you remember the person who was most upset. I don't know if you know this story or not, who showed up at the press conference, who would not speak to Eric Greitens. You know who that was?
The guy that invented zip ties.
Kim Gardner. Kim Gardner was at the press
wow.
conference, and she refused to talk to Greitens. Even though he tried to address her and talk to her face-to-face, she turned and walked away from him and would not talk to him. And
she also thought that violated HIPAA, and she was taking her nursing classes too, Brad.
Yeah, she was late for her nursing class. Okay, moving along.
Up a notch to number 2.
I tell you what, Brad, we talked about this before. It's one of your pet issues, the fact that nonprofits and some colleges and universities and your favorite public radio stations aren't subjected to the same tax burden as us ham and eggers, as us regular people, Brad. Well, a brave and patriotic group called the St. Louis Democratic Socialists of America have an idea for Washington University to contribute a mere $15 million a year to St. Louis public schools and the school district of University City. Brad, we talked about this back when it first happened, when this idea was first floated by the socialist group back in February. And we talked about how much sense it would make for WashU to just chip a little cash off. Just a little $15 million a year could really boost St. Louis City schools and U City. What do you think about it, Brad?
You know what? First off, I you know how I feel about this. I think the not-for-profit thing's a scam. I mean, these people, and once again, there are going to be people going like, I can't believe he's saying my church should pay taxes. Hey, guess what? Your church should pay taxes. Your church, because if there's a fire in the church, the fire department shows up, and guess what? You don't pay for the fire department because you don't pay
you sure don't.
You don't pay any real estate taxes. And the same situation for all the infrastructure that you get that's normally associated with your real estate taxes, that kind of stuff. I think this is a great idea, but the problem is that's not going to happen. Once again, the university. We talked about this one time before. I even looked this up, where I said that Washington University. What did I say? Had like $47 billion in. It was some huge amount of money.
It's as of today, it's $11.5 billion.
$11.5 billion in their endowment fund, which means it's sitting there. And if you're like Joe actuarial head, you can figure out, okay, at whatever the current interest rate is, how much money that's generating per day just on interest income, right?
Yeah, that's true. And those institutions have conservative investments,
right?
So that would, the money is safe. I get what you're saying. By the way, Joe actuarial head, I looked it up, and he is a professional actuarial head.
Do you know, I talked about this yesterday.
I went to the certificate of professional registration.
Okay.
And do you have any listeners that could weigh in that did a deep dive after our show Monday, Brad, to fact check me?
No, I do, but it's interesting. Well, not necessarily the fact check you. I touched on this yesterday, but I never brought it up. First segment, or next block, B block, remind me, PR, professional registration, first thing, because there's an interesting thing that's cropped up, which, once again, the world's smartest woman found out for me, okay? And last but not least,
the number one.
Josh Hawley, set to be reelected in November, Brad. He is setting liberals aflame. And it's based on comments. He made it a little something called NapCon, which is a conference that he spoke at on Monday. Do you know what he said, Brad? What he had the audacity to say at the National Conservatism Conference in Washington, D.C.?
I know exactly what he said. He says, I'm not going to use this job as a stepping stone to the presidency. That's what he said.
And then he hits you in the head with a ladder.
Right.
No, he said, some will say now that I'm calling America a Christian nation. So I am. And some will say that I am advocating Christian nationalism. And so I do. Now, as you could expect, Brad, the liberal media, and that's a trademark there, the liberal media is just agog with rage and fury about the fact that this term that the left has demonized of Christian nationalism, that he's embracing it. Can you believe that, Brad? And there's a woman who somehow got a job at the Kansas City Star. Her name is Yvette Walker. Yeah, she's the opinion page editor at the Kansas City Star. The headline is, "So Josh Hawley advocates Christian nationalism. Does he really know what it means?" So she wrote a piece where she acknowledges that she thinks that Josh Hawley is, he's really smart, but he doesn't really know the true meaning Christian nationalism. So it's great, Brad. This is one of those things. This is like when Josh Hawley comes out and talks about masculinity, that all he has to say is Christian nationalism one time, and the media will be talking about him for a week, Brad. It's exactly what he needs and wants.
Okay, John, let me guess. This is Christian nationalism essentially is a dog whistle, and I hate that stupid term, but it's a dog whistle for white supremacy. Isn't that what he's saying essentially?
Oh yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. And it's just one step away, Brad, from taking a bed sheet and putting some holes in it and lighting a cross somewhere.
Well, I have a bed sheet that have holes in it, but I don't have any cross. I lay in my bed. It's worn in a couple spots, but you know how that is. When you're a single guy, you don't care about stuff like that. Okay, it's time to take a break and remind me the first thing, professional registration, which is sort of interesting. Okay, by the way, you can check out our show, bjshow.video. We put the shows up afterwards. John does a great job of this. Normally they go up within within the 8 o'clock hour. By 9 o'clock, they're normally up. Once again, today that will not be the case. I've got another appointment with my son, got another doctor to see today, so I'm going to duck out of here in about 20 minutes or so. But when I get back, I'll put it up, and it'll be up sometime this afternoon. Okay, this is thebjshow.co. That's what our website is. Check it out, and we'll be back.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?